Hi, this is Wesley.
And I'm Shane.
And we would like to welcome you to the Underground Geek Shack. Hey, do you want to know something?
What?
Why is it now that anime has become so popular than what it was 10 years ago?
Why?
I guess we'll figure that out.
Yeah, it is a big question because it has, there's been a certain, shift in what's acceptable now.
Yeah.
And anime seems to be one of the things that strangely found its way into pop culture. It's like saying My Hero Academia.
Almost everyone knows. Yeah.
It's kind of like the new Dragon Ball Z.
You sit there and say Demon Slayer, everyone knows about that.
And then you you say more obscure and people don't really understand it. And it's like, it's fine. That's kind of the point of it becoming popular is there's going to be certain things. Because it's like, we saw kind of a smaller, I don't want to say renaissance because it really wasn't. We saw a smaller boom in popularity with the Dragon Ball Z and the birth of blocks of Toonami, Megumi. I think it was Megumi. I don't know if you remember that one. It was after school show. It was a chick with a bunch of monsters and an undersea thing.
Yep.
I think it was Megumi. That had little bits of anime that was more the normal Cartoon Network show, but which I know we're gonna get into. We're gonna get into the show, so I won't go too far. But I feel there's been a big shift in it went from weird foreign cartoons to hey, I know that. Yeah. And now you still get weird.
Or being looked at weird for liking these shows, and then now everyone that used to pick on you is like, yo, I know that show. I know this
that,
one.
Yeah, I know that one. And they're your age. They're your age. You're a grown adult. You made fun of me and said I needed to grow up. But which I never had that happen. That was oddly specific, but I never had that happen. I never really got picked on for liking anime, but I was always kind of a bigger guy, so I didn't really get bothered a whole lot. I had one time where someone thought it was funny. I pulled out a Naruto manga. It was 6th grade. And in the middle of class goes, "Is that one of those Narutos?"
Dang.
And it's just yes.
Yeah.
And then I got laughed at for it, which I didn't care a whole lot, but it was okay. And then I had one experience where I was reading a Batman comic. It was when I was still into the comics. And this dude comes up next to me because we're in an English class. And it was toward the end of the day, it was a final period or something. I forgot what it is now. I've been out of high school for so long. I forgot what it's called.
7th period?
7th period, something like that.
Yeah, because it goes 1st through 7th,
Yeah, we were at the final one. We were at 7th, and we were waiting for the bell to ring. We wrapped up early, and I was reading a Batman comic, and he leans over and goes, "Is that one of those you read from, left to right or right to left?"
Okay.
And I just turned the page like you normally would. It's I don't know. Which one do you think? But so it was always kind of funny to see stigma because I came from a very, I don't want to say podunk because that's really wrong, but I came from a school that's a little you and I came from very different high schools. Yeah. In a sense that yours was more in the city, mine was not. Mine was way out in the outskirts. Mine was a more rural high school. And so anime there was you had people who liked it. Yeah. And you had people. I remember once seeing someone dressed up as in the school uniform of Vampire Knight. One day while I was in a class, and it was poor taste, but nice. Not Vampire Knight fan. It's so weird.
Yeah, I just remember. I think it was going into high school, and I was sitting here because one of my friends gave me probably the first or second volume of Naruto, and I was okay, because he was trying to get me into it because I had already started watching the show. Yeah, and then he was like, yo, you should read the comic book. We didn't know how to say manga at the time. We were just read the comic book. So I'm sitting there trying to read it, and this dude's dude, you're about to enter high school. Grow up. Why are you reading this kiddie stuff? And I'm and then I look at him, and then I was you're the one to talk. You got a One Piece novel right next to you.
What's that? God.
And then it's just I used to get picked on for, watching stuff like that. And then it's just so I kind of hid it away for a little bit. Yeah. But I still watched it in my downtime. And I'm just okay, this is just me. I'm the type of person that likes this stuff. Yeah. And then getting into high school, I started getting into like anime club and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I need to find people who I can at least talk to about this. Because if I start talking to myself, I'm going to look like the weirdo in school.
Yeah. I need someone to talk to.
And so, I went to anime club, and then like that's how I got introduced to other genres of anime. And I'm just like, okay. So there's something that was like, what was it? It was like Black Cat or something like that.
Oh God, Black Cat.
I
like Black Cat.
I remember I watched that, and then I was just like, that's actually how I got introduced to Utada Hikaru, and just listening to a bunch of her songs, and then, because I was just like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts? What the heck is this?
Yeah. I think that's also one that got a lot of people in it. There's a lot of people in Kingdom Hearts because Disney ran those commercials like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing I kind of miss. Of course, I don't watch Disney anymore, so I wouldn't even know. I haven't watched Disney in so long.
We have Disney Plus, but...
Yeah. That I remember being a lot younger around like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember somewhat around like Birth by Sleep, which is a more recent one.
Yeah.
You would occasionally catch the commercial for it, like or Birth by Sleep. I never saw it on Disney because at the point I didn't watch it anymore. I'd always catch it on like YouTube or something like that. But I remember like way back when Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 was coming out, when I was a kid watching Disney, it was everywhere. They had like, what was it called? Disney 411 did a few bits on it, like a few segments on it. It's so different now. But yeah,
they had Disney 411 and they had like Disney 365, and I'm like, because I remember when Disney 365 came out, they started doing like little bits for like 35/8/2.
Yeah, I remember that one.
That was the only reason how I knew about that version of Kingdom Hearts.
They ran so many things for it in that game, in my opinion. It's disappointing. I'll be ripped apart for it, but it's boring. But anyway, bad opinions or hot takes, I guess, aside. It's not. It's just bad. But yeah, it's just the way that things have changed is so weird. Because when we were first getting into it, and then how we are getting in, or how people are into it now, are just completely different. It's like, there's... Sorry, my phone keeps making a noise. Ever since it restarted, I'm scared. But yeah, it's just a lot of things have changed, and it's somewhat for the better. There's some aspects you can say for the worse. Cause my fiance was talking about it, that the more it becomes popular, the more we also see like people try to put, I guess, I don't want to say Western ideals because I don't want to go down that road. But they seem to put what they think is normal.
Try to put their version of
onto like anime, which again, Japanese culture is very different from Western U.S. culture. So it's kind of like a trade-off. We get some really good things. We also get some kind of bad things. But I guess it just depends on how you look at it. But I guess if we're gonna start with anywhere, I guess we have to go back to when it first, like, the biggest thing we all can look at, like shows when we were kids would run. Like Cartoon Network was
Network was really big
proponent of like pushing anime. Because the whole point, I remember watching an interview with some of the guys that ran Toonami then and still run it now. That's what they wanted to do. They couldn't get anime on the normal like Cartoon Network blocks. So they were like, okay, well, we would like to make our own little section or our own little block that Saturdays at night, you know, so we're not taking up the majority of your time. That we just push out anime we think is cool and that people will like, and that's how we got introduced to like Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon. I'm trying to think of like more of the original because
it was like we had Dragon Ball Z, we had Sailor Moon.
I know for a small amount of time, I think
Bleach was there. Cardcaptor Sakura was there.
I don't think Bleach wasn't on Toonami.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure it was Adult Swim.
Yeah, no, it was Adult Swim.
Adult Swim took, that's also something to get into that, but Toonami, the first version of Toonami now has Bleach.
Yeah, now it has Bleach.
But now Toonami's part of Adult Swim. Originally, Toonami was Cartoon Networks.
Yeah.
Which they're the same thing, it's just they try to segment it. Adult shows at night, you know, normal thing. We've all seen it by this point. There's no reason to explain Adult Swim to anyone. But, yeah, when it was originally on Cartoon Network, like, the border between Cartoon Network and Adult Swim... it ran a lot of the stuff that we know as like classics, again, Dragon Ball Z.
I know it did run Naruto at one point,
it was the only one running Naruto for the longest time.
Oh yeah, because it had like the whole Naruto marathon.
Because I think that's actually, I might be wrong, because looking at the history of Toonami, it's a little convoluted at times, but originally, I believe it aired Dragon Ball Z. It aired a bunch of other action cartoons before it became a lot more of an anime block. And it became like a big block of anime. Before that, it was like, it had a few, like, again, I keep saying them, but the two I mentioned, and then it'd be a bunch of action cartoons, and then slowly they started adding more to it. Because eventually it got to where it was like Naruto, the Prince of Tennis, Mare, which is a really obscure one. Both of those. Hikaru no Go. I don't even know if I said that right. I think that's right.
I think that's right, because I remember seeing bits and pieces of that one.
That show was so boring. I'm sorry. That show was so boring.
I saw bits and pieces of that, but then I was just like, where's Naruto at? Give me Naruto.
They aired a lot of things that, like, became kind of like people would sit down, like, everyone knows what Dragon Ball Z is. And Toonami's kind of, in my opinion, one of the bigger reasons why is because everyone would sit down. Even Cartoon Network at some point, or no, that was still Toonami. I forgot. Toonami used to air at like 5 p.m.
Yeah.
5 p.m. until like nighttime. So yeah, 5 p.m. you'd sit down and watch, like, they would start with Dragon Ball Z. Because I can remember sitting down and watching the Buu Saga as it aired.
Yep.
I believe as it aired. I might be a little off.
I remember watching... Yeah, because I remember when it started with the Frieza saga.
Yep.
And then, you know, when the whole iconic form of, like, Goku going into Super Saiyan, and everyone was like, oh, Goku about to lay Frieza out.
Yep.
And we were all just like, Goku ain't gonna win. Goku ain't gonna win. And then Super Saiyan comes in, and you're just like, this is all new.
Now it's so cliche, but back then it was so cool to watch fights like that where you're like, oh, there's no way you can win. And then they just suddenly power up. And it's like, oh, this is so cool. Now it's kind of like, we've seen it like 1,000 times. Yep. I'd like to see more writing.
To the point where now you're just predicting. You're like, well, he's gonna transform right here. And then just,
But yeah, Toonami was the big one, and then of course now Toonami disappeared for a while. We didn't really see a lot of anime through Cartoon Network. We saw it more, which was weird. We saw it more through like Nicktoons, Nickelodeon's. And I won't say obscure because I didn't know if people knew of Nicktoons.
I knew of Nicktoons because when Nicktoons came out, that was when they brought in Dragon Ball Z Kai. Yeah. And they started bringing in other ones.
I just can't stop remembering because we were also talking about, how shows took influence from Kappa Mikey.
Yo, I remember Kappa
so
Mikey.
Stupid. That was such a dumb show. But it was good.
I think one show that I remember watching, what was it? It was like LBX or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
LBX. And then you had others like Jetix, Disney.
Disney XD.
Disney XD, thank you. I forgot. Jetix had Oban and a bunch of others. Disney XD had Naruto for Shippuden.
Because before we had Jetix and then we just had Disney. And then Disney had bought Jetix and so it formed into Disney XD.
Yeah.
And then that was when they started showing Naruto Shippuden. And I was like, okay. And then they did something interesting when I was a kid. And they started to show Inazuma 11, the soccer anime, and I was really excited. I was like, "Oh, I've never seen this before!" And then they showed like the first season, and then they just ended it right there. And I was like, "There has to be more! There has to be more!" And then that just led me down an entire rabbit hole. I'm not going to go down today, but
for another episode, don't worry. That's the fun part, also introduced to just anime never getting a continuation. But yeah, it seemed to like, everyone took turns. Nickelodeon, the main channel, Nickelodeon never did, but Nicktoons dipped their toes in it, aired Kai.
Yeah.
Shippuden, like, because Cartoon Network wasn't doing it, Disney picked it up, which was a weird thing at the time that they did it. They never finished it. They stopped airing it after a while.
It was just weird, because I know where exactly they stopped. And it was, like, before we got into the whole war. And it was, like, during, like, this whole prison mission thing with Hinata and her team. And then she gets, like, this one person has, like, a jutsu of jewels or whatever. And
I think I remember. One of them gets, like, trapped. I didn't watch Naruto.
Like, that was where it stopped.
I watched the original Naruto. I never watched Shippuden.
Oh, because, like, that was where it's... Because I watched all of the original Naruto and then going into Shippuden. Yeah. And then, like, that was where it had stopped. And then it was, like, next time. And then it was, like, you see Naruto trying to break into the jutsu or trying to save everyone. Yeah. And then you just hear this woman and she goes, if you don't kill me, then your teammates and the love of your life is gonna die. And I was like, we gotta figure this out. What's gonna happen? You think we ever got an answer? No.
And that was kind of the big thing with that, was just, it constantly kept pushing out anime for, like, at weird times too, because if I remember Disney XD wasn't like late at night. It was like mid. It wasn't midday. It was like afternoon.
Afternoon, yeah.
And then of course Adult Swim, I think, is the only one that I say Cartoon Network didn't really continue anime. It did. Adult Swim did. Yeah. But Adult Swim started airing the more, I guess, adult anime. It kind of aired a mixture of it.
It aired, what was it? It was Afro Samurai.
It aired Afro Samurai, Bleach, Big O, a bunch of ones that, like, there's a mid-period where I didn't even know what shows it was airing.
Yeah.
Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, Mirai Nikki. It did a lot of... as soon as it come out and Funimation would get their little hands on it, the Cartoon Network or Adult Swim would push it out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's... like, it just started, like, the networks we grew up watching cartoons started pushing anime a little bit more toward us. Of course, it wasn't big enough to affect, like, let's say our generation was kind of split. Some of us were like, oh, yeah. But, like, generations below us, like my brother, for example, became a little more normal. Yeah. And, of course, then you had, like, us who were, like, we knew it, but some people still didn't like it. Like, today, people still don't like it and still have problems with it, but it's kind of more of a, whatever. Yeah. Because it's like, kind of saying anime is a new thing. No. There are people, like, our parents' age or something that new anime. Yeah. They had different anime, but yeah. And I guess that's kind of just where I think the biggest breach of it was, because then it also, Cartoon Network introduced us into, like, films, like Ghibli. Who doesn't know Ghibli? Yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah. There's a lot of people that know Ghibli, because even Hayao Miyazaki is seen as, like, a really great director, because he has an eye for things. Oh, yeah. And a lot of his stories are really good. Some of them I'm not a big fan of. I'm sorry, I'll get the most hate. Kiki's Delivery Service was... I don't need a lot of action, but Kiki's Delivery Service was a little boring. I get what it's supposed to be about, and I get it. I'm not, like, just sitting like, oh, I just need action. But it's just, even understanding what the film's about, it's just like, it's cool, but, like, I'm bored. I'm just watching someone have creative block, pretty much artist block. And, like, it's fine. It's just not for me. Especially when the cat stops talking. It's like, I'm done. I'm out of here. You got rid of everything. But it's like Ghibli, Cartoon Network was the first time I ever saw, like, a Ghibli film. It was, I think it was Toonami, because Toonami had awesome anime, like, bumpers. Their bumpers and, like, Ghibli bumpers were amazing. Oh, yeah. Like, the deep voice, everything, describing everything. And, like, I remember seeing Spirited Away was technically my first film. And if memory serves for me, I think it's weird to say that Ponyo was my first Ghibli film. Ponyo? Because, like, I rarely remember it, but then again, I was so young when I saw it, and I'm just like, I remember seeing this only because it just showed up on Disney at one point, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Yep. I think it was in, like, 3rd grade. It was, like, when Toonami was in full swing, and I would just sat there. They had, like, a Ghibli film thing, or, like, a marathon. Yeah, I remember. It was, like, Spirited Away one night. I forgot the other one. House Move. I think it's House Moving Castle. House Moving Castle, and then I forgot the third. It may have been Nausicaa, because I know Toonami aired Nausicaa at some point, because that's how I found Nausicaa, but I can't remember if it was that. But I remember watching each of the nights, because I was like, I've never seen these before. Because Spirited Away, I remember watching. It's like that feeling of, like, oh my god, that was great, and then you're kind of sad it's over. That was the first time, like, I got that with, like, anime or an animated movie, and it was like, oh, I want to see more, so I watched each night. And I think that's how especially it started, because there's, like, people will get My Neighbor Totoro for children. Yeah. I have a friend whose aunt has it for his little cousins to watch, and then his aunt looked at him weird when he's like, oh, hey, let me see that, and watched it. And she's like, that's for kids, and he's like, well, sure. But, yeah, it was... I think Ghibli is kind of like one of the big things where you can say, like, it broke through. Oh, yeah. Because Ghibli films are just good to watch for kids anyway. The way it's done is it's for kids, but it's also for adults. Oh, yeah. And plus, like, even, like, I've been hearing that, like, you know, Ghibli is basically, it was, when Ghibli was coming out, it was called the Disney of Japan. Yeah. 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 Which was weird. I get what it meant, but it was like, I felt like sometimes it pushed out better stuff than Disney, especially animation-wise, but I'm not an animation expert, so that's more personal opinion. Yeah. But Yeah, and I think that's kind of where Western audiences realized, oh, wow, okay, well, this is kind of good. Mm-hmm. And I know it's definitely the birth of wanting to use Japanese films in Western filmmaking. Yeah. And it's also a big thing. We've had a history of filmmakers liking Japanese auteurs, directors, because Star Wars was birthed from George Lucas's love of Akira Kurosawa. Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, it's not anime, but still something if you've never seen. I would suggest to see Akira Kurosawa films because they're really good.
I remember watching one of those in my filmmaking class, and that was good.
He's very good. He was very good at what he did. But Star Wars is heavily influenced by, I think, it's the Hidden Fortress. Yeah. The Hidden Fortress, and then like The Mandalorian, even for more recent Star Wars fans. One of the episodes where they defend a village is quite literally not a ripoff, but an inspiration by Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, which is a movie about the same kind of thing. Seven Samurai defend a village from bandits. So I feel like that's also something how it slowly started creeping in. Is we had more people who were interested in Japanese culture how to become film directors.
And then just have their own
or be twist. Amazed by it. It's like Akira, the movie Akira had a big reach. Mm-hmm. People here, or what filmmakers here called it a masterpiece. Yeah. Because Otomo knew what he was doing. Otomo's very specific and is very good at what he does. Because it even got so far that Spielberg and George Lucas were rumored to be one of the directors for a Western adaptation of Akira, which I doubt we'll ever get now. Because I remember for the longest time the myth was it was going to be Leonardo DiCaprio was going to play Tetsuo.
Yeah, I remember hearing that myth too.
And I forgot who they said was going to play Kaneda, but for the longest time it was always Leonardo DiCaprio will play Tetsuo. And then we never got the film. And then it's kind of like long running for anyone that's a Halo fan, the Halo movies. Mm-hmm. Not the show we got now, we're not talking about that. But the Halo movies itself that were rumored to be a thing that were just stuck in the cutting room floor of the development stage. That's kind of what the Akira film is. Most people don't even know if it really ever existed, but because even Spielberg went on quote talking about Miyazaki's influence and what Miyazaki does with films and how well it is. Yeah. So there's a lot of influence and a lot of appreciation for Japanese film and animation that's kind of bled over into us or into our culture.
And even one way we can also still think about it is when Snap. It's still going along with Star Wars. It's when Disney went out and bought. Well, they didn't buy, but they went out and they asked. Yeah,
they did a bunch of Japanese animation studios in Japan to do things like Legends and stuff like that, which really does show that kind of, hey, I want to see you do it because I forgot who all did it. It's some really well known studios.
I remember there was Trigger, there was Project IG. Yeah. And there was a bunch. I remember that. But I remember Trigger stood out to me. Trigger did at least 2, I remember. And I was just okay, this piqued my interest. And I remember when I watched it, I wanted to have my mom and my brother watch it with me. Yeah. And they're like, nah, it's anime. I was like, but it's Star Wars. Everyone in this family loves Star Wars.
Yeah, that was kind of thing. So it's there's a fault to kind of bring it. There's I don't want to say normalization because that's not really a word, but there is a normalizing of or not a destigmatizing movement to make anime not so jarring to Western viewers, because we've started doing stuff more with anime studios or Japanese studios with American made products or American made films and stuff. We've even gone so far as Marvel at one point, before Dark Horse got a hold of it, Marvel published I think an issue, or I can't remember how many there are. You can find the cover if you look up Berserk Marvel. But Marvel at a time published as a thing that they were doing, published Berserk. Before Dark Horse, which is also an American comic company that you can find comics from Dark Horse. Because Dark Horse and Boom are kind of the alternatives. Or Dark Horse, Boom, and Image are the alternatives to DC and Marvel. Dark Horse especially doesn't really do they do superhero stuff, but they do a lot of other things, and they're not super well known, but like they're well known enough. Like you can go to the bookstore and look at the spines of like comics, and you'll find a Dark Horse logo. Then you can go to Berserk, and you'll find that there's a Dark Horse logo on it as well. They're the reason we get Berserk. So there's a lot of comic companies that are kind of doing the same thing, that are kind of putting their fingers in all like sorts of situations, as well as we were talking about this before we were filming. Stan Lee also did kind of the same thing.
Yeah, because Stan Lee, he not only, I mean, we all know Stan Lee from you know going into Marvel and everything, but he also dipped his hands in making and helping out with making manga, and then also helping out with making another animation. I can't remember the name of it.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember that thing as well.
Yeah.
So there's a big push to normalize it. Like whether unconsciously or consciously, there is a big push to like normalize anime and stuff like that. Of course, all this is in light of the UN trying to ban it again. Yeah. Because and that's kind of one thing that there are some issues with anime because of the cultural differences that even I myself are like, I kind of get why people are upset, like especially when it has to do with things that borderline like dangerous topics. Especially involving children. It's like, that's when it gets really bad. But with this all being in light of the UN trying to ban it, or like going through the process again. There's been like a big push to normalize it, because it's like anything, you're gonna get weird stuff. There's like novels, you'll get really weird novels, you'll get really weird movies, but I find that kind of the catalyst for why it's so acceptable now is that from beginning to now, we've had certain things like Toonami, all the blocks we talked about, up to like directors and taking inspiration, and even going as far or in comics, kind of pushing and like putting out their own publications of anime, of manga. We've seen like a normalization of it, and that even goes to the point that now, to kind of double back over comics and back into the movies really fast, we're seeing like live action adaptations, like Ghost in the Shell, Adelita.
Alita battling.
Alita. I always think it's Adelita for some reason, but Alita. And there's been a few others.
There was the Full Metal Alchemist one. I mean,
And Netflix also pushes its own stuff as well. Its own anime. That's a surprising thing too, is that now you see more streaming companies trying to not only push out anime that we are used to watching, but they're trying to produce their own. Because it's taking what we loved from Toonami and like all that growing up, and then it's just kind of like pushing it out. Which it has some negative, especially like Netflix has some really negative. It's like negative sides to it, like the Death Note live action adaptation that probably should have never existed.
The funny thing is that when it came to the live action adaptation of it, that's the reason why my brother got into watching the anime. Because I was like, you like this? He's like, I mean, it's interesting, but I only want to watch the anime. I was like, okay.
Which Death Note, in my opinion, has always had flaws, but the live action one really was not that great. I like Death Note, but it's always had flaws, but that live action was not worth it. But we've seen, like, in different I was gonna say genres, I don't know why, but different, like, outlets, creative outlets, that, like, it's becoming more acceptable to make references or to be inspired by. I know the artistic community is kind of like that gray area at the moment. I won't talk a whole lot about it because I'm not an artist myself. But I know that, like, even because like I've transitioned from like different things here and there. Like I've read some manga here and there. I've been reading some webtoons here and there. And even like when you go into like different webtoons, you can see their inspiration for anime and everything like that. Because you're just like, wait a minute, that I know that reference. Is that a JoJo reference? And so it's become more common and okay to like make references to be inspired by. It's even like one thing we don't think about but has happened is music. A lot of the bands of us growing up, like No Doubt, if you know the film Kite, the anime film Kite, No Doubt has a music video that reenacts kind of bits from the movie in the bathroom scene, but with the band. And that took me a while to realize that, because I loved the film Kite when I was a kid. It's not a kid film, but there was a lot of things I watched and read that I shouldn't have. But it was a big reference. Daft Punk was a big one. A lot of people don't know about it. They know the album Discovery, but for their album Discovery, they did a film. And they got the studio and director behind Captain Harlock to do the film.
Okay.
Because they were big fans of the anime Captain Harlock and were like, hey, they went to Japan and like asked him in person, could you do this? So they ended up, from their album Discovery, made a film called Interstellar 5555.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. And so that was the first time I know in music, like, because I think that may have been before No Doubt's Kite music video, but they made a whole film with an animation company, and it was well received. It's still kind of obscure in a sense, because you see some of the music videos and you're like, what? And then you realize finally that they go together and they have an order, because you can find it on YouTube. It's just it's jumbled. Yeah. So you can watch the whole film, it's just you have to like know the order it's in.
I know there was one music artist, I can't remember his name, but he's the guy he made a song called Shelter. Mm-hmm. And he actually went to Japan, and he had A1 Pictures actually help him to animate the entire thing. And I was like, yo, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that, because there's another example, I can't remember the artist's name, but he's newer, has a about the same thing as like how Interstellar was. There's an animation, he worked with an animation studio to make an entire like film with his of music videos, and one of the biggest ones, and I have a funny story I guess funny to me, it may not be funny to everyone, but one of the big one that people don't think about, Kanye West. Yeah. Because for his music video Strong, I just shortened it to Stronger because I don't want to do the whole title. For his music video for Stronger,
it was the Akira.
Yeah, it takes some liberty, but I mean, of course it should. But it references the motorbikes of Akira with like the bikes with like the weird like red light,
the red streak
tail, red light streak. And then the whole bit where he's in the hospital bed is taken from the film and like repurposed. Yeah. And when he's laying in the machine, that's also from the film, which is funny because it's Daft Punk is with him for that song. They did that together because it's one of their songs that Kanye wanted to do a song with. Yeah. And it's funny because Daft Punk likes anime, so part of me is like, maybe they had a hand in what happened there. But there's a lot of references in that, and I think that was kind of the big point where even like hip hop or rap or anything like that also started having periods where like anime became more acceptable, because now we have rappers, well-known rappers, who mention anime. Yeah.
Because, like,
in, like, rap.
Oh, yeah. Because, like, we even have, like, even if you go on YouTube and you can find, like, different anime rappers, and they have ciphers dedicated to different characters.
Yeah, there's, what is it? XXXTentacion even had, like, references to, like, Dragon Ball Z and stuff. And it's just, like, it shows that kind of, it's becoming more acceptable, because we've grown up with it, so it's more normal for us. It's becoming more normalized through both how it's releasing, how it's shown, because now, as we said before, 10 years ago, you said whatever the popular show was, and like, oh, Bleach, and people are like, what's that? Yeah. Now you're like, oh, My Hero, and people are like, oh, yeah, I know that one. And so things have changed, and you even see people, again, as we said at the beginning, who once would have bullied you, like, hey, I know that one, and it's like, what?
You know what? To like backtrack on the music real quick, because I just now thought of two different ones. One is Fooly Cooly with the and because I said, I remember when I had told you the first time that I watched Fooly Cooly, I was like, that show was completely insane, but the Pillows did what they needed to do.
Yeah, they did a really good job. Fooly Cooly has a really good soundtrack.
And then the second one is Youngstro.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in some of his music he puts in anime references.
Yeah.
I'm the only one in my family who actually gets the anime references, but I'm just like, I get that reference.
Well, let alone now, since we're back on the music subject, there are like channels that have raps dedicated to anime characters or inspired by anime. So it's definitely, there's just been a big push to normalize it to the point now where like you go into stores and you can find anime merchandise. It's no longer like just secluded to like those small shops or Hot Topic or Spencer's. Yeah. Because I remember when anime shirts in like Spencer's were like a small section, and now it's like half the store. Yeah. It's as big as like the band shirts are, and even in the mugs and stuff. And I don't. Part of me wants to go in the back of the store, Spencer's, to see if there's any anime merchandise back there. Like, oh yes, pulls out explicit items. wrapped in My Hero or something. It'd be so messed up. But it's just there's been like a big push to normalize it.
Yeah.
Of course, you still have those who take it to their love for the medium too far.
Yeah.
You always have to, like, it's that term of touch grass. Please touch grass. Go outside, touch grass for a little bit. You hear it in video games, but you also hear it in the anime community when someone goes a little too far. You're like, just touch grass. Go outside.
Yeah.
Go outside. You need to breathe actual air.
Leave.
Yeah. So I think that's why it's become so normal now, or why it's, like, crept in, is just because it had influences everywhere from the beginning. It's just now those influences are becoming more widespread, more well-known, more like... Yeah, we still have a lot of people that think that anime is nothing but really strange sexual cartoons.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not wrong.
Yeah.
But that's the point, is it's kind of like how comics are. It's a wide variety of things.
Yeah.
And there's something for everyone. It's not just for children.
Yeah.
Berserk is definitely not for kids. Monsters, not for kids. You know, you keep going down the line. There's just... Yeah. So it's...
They'll stick Chainsaw Man in there, too.
Yeah, Chainsaw Man's a big one.
Yeah.
But, which his work now, especially, is very, like, kind of turns everything we know about how he does stuff on its head.
He already came out with a one-shot.
Yep. He's got 2 one-shots right now. One's old, one's new, that are more... I haven't read the new one, but I know the last one was really dramatic, was more of a drama.
Yeah.
Slice of life drama, which was really good.
Oh, yeah.
It was really sad.
The newest one is, like, 200 pages.
Oh, my God. I know. I still got to get to it, but that's long.
Yeah.
But,
It's Goodbye Eri if you want to know.
Oh no, that one sounds like it's gonna be sad too. That's just, I think that's why though, is we've slowly began to normalize it. And now the younger generations are like, yeah, and also one thing I didn't get to bring up beforehand, TikTok.
Oh, yeah, wow. How did we forget that?
No, I knew it was there, I just didn't know how to lump it in, and since we're kind of at this point where it's coming to, like, ahead, TikTok's also, like, now especially a big thing because it's allowing a lot more fans to connect at a faster rate. Yeah. And if you go to the anime, there's so many Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, oh my god. The amount of, like, women thirsty, like, for the main characters, or, like, Gojo.
Freaking Gojo.
Yeah, my fiance sends me stuff all the time she finds on TikTok, like, oh my god, look at this. It's like, chill. Calm. I feel like TikTok and a lot of, like, YouTube and all that, like, all the meme posting and memes, like, definitely made anime become kind of more less obscure too. Meme culture had a big influence as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at right now. I feel like right now it's new and exciting for everyone. Yeah. Eventually it's just going to be kind of like how we view comics or something. Eventually it's just going to be like, yeah, you can do that, whatever. Yeah. And it'll just be like, okay, anime, whatever. People are just going to be bored of it again.
They're just going to be like, okay. And then once something new pops off, everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh! Yeah. It's going to be sitting here trending on Twitter all over again.
Oh my god, yeah. But yeah, I think that's, like, the biggest reasons. And there's probably some we missed and stuff, but I feel like that's kind of, we've just been slowly creeping up because we're getting more and more exposure to it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah, we have been, you know, like, just gaining more and more exposure. It's funny to feel, like, just funny to see, like, oh snap, this person actually likes this? Yeah. And you're just like, because then you'll look and you're just like, but wait a minute.
Yeah, wait a minute. And yeah, because you also find, like, it's like having that moment where you and, like, a YouTuber you watch have a similar like finding out, let's say in my case when I was younger, PewDiePie likes Berserk, and you're like, I'm vindicated somehow. This somehow vindicates my love for this series. Yeah. So
like,
yeah.
One other thing, I realized we also got to start wrapping up, but I also thought of another one, which is also Rooster Teeth. Yeah. Because, you know, with the whole RWBY series. And, yeah.
As a RWBY, and then, like, even going back further to, like, Nickelodeon with Avatar. Yep. There's inspiration everywhere, but definitely because Montiome, I think, set out to make an anime-like product.
And the interesting thing is that now RWBY is getting an anime of itself.
That one I'm actually kind of excited for.
Yeah. So
I'm not a RWBY fan, but I'm kind of excited.
I'm just sticking with it just to see how it ends.
I can't even do that one anymore. I tried to, and then I watched the last season, got halfway through, and was like, I'm done. I can't, man. I can't. I'm just not a RWBY fan.
I'm just like, let me just ride this out. It's the same way with me with My Hero. I'm just riding it out.
Nope, that one's also one I just completely stopped on. I just can't do My Hero anymore.
I'll try to catch you up in a later episode.
Yeah, I know we gotta come back and do that. But yeah.
So anything you want to leave them off with?
Buy stocks into anime.
Buy stocks into anime.
You might make it big.
Who knows?
Get it on the animation studios while you can, because they're becoming more mainstream. It might be it might be like buying into Disney. No, there's not a whole lot more to it. I feel like that's kind of the big reach so far, and I feel like it's going to develop further as we go.
Yeah.
Where eventually it's just going to be like, it'll have the cultural impact like SpongeBob does. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I remember SpongeBob, I love SpongeBob. Eventually I feel like people will start doing that. Even though I don't like My Hero anymore, I feel like My Hero maybe like get to that level where it's like, I remember watching that when I was little.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I feel like that's kind of the effect that we're gonna get. It's becoming more popular, more normalized, more like we see it every day. We see it on merchandise. To the point
it's gonna get to the point where we're just gonna be walking around town, and you're gonna just see it on a huge billboard, and you're just gonna be like, "Oh my gosh."
I feel like eventually we will get to that.
Yeah.
But it will be a while. I feel like that one's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a little bit, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we're done for now.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks for listening, and we hope you've enjoyed watching.
I always listening.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay. The Underground Geek Shack. See you guys.
See ya.